Alright, hello everyone. This is Panda. She's a lovely, lovely dog. My grandmother's dog, in fact. I'm at my grandmother's house right now. And to get the energy and to get the theme of the reading today, I pulled 3 cards. The first one I got was happiness, which flew straight out. So immediately I knew this reading was going to be about happiness, which is such a lovely thing. And then I asked, what are the sort of the things that might be preventing happiness, and I got the Knight of Wands in reverse, which is interesting because I got that in a different reading recently, and wealth in reverse. Wealth in reverse, if you don't mind. It's like, you know, dogs can be so happy, but all they own is normally like a ball or some toys. It really isn't about what you own or about what your income is, or how stable you are, how sort of firm your feet are in the ground in one given space or place. Happiness comes from all places, therefore the more that you are able to move around, whether that be just in your mind, keeping your mind from being stagnant, thinking about the same topics over and over again, the shopping list, the groceries, the kids, the all that stuff. And of course lots of us have to do those things, but it's about being able to mix it in with these new emotions, these new thoughts, these new seeing life like you would as a kid, being able to see see each tree as being an individual soul, see each person as being an individual soul, see all the grass and see all the different types rather than just one type. When you're an adult, you might look at a grassy field and just see, your brain just classifies it as like miscellaneous grass, whereas if you view it for a child's eyes, they might see all the wondrous like seeds and like grass heads and all the stuff. They see everything basically, and that gives them the sort of happiness and the carefree attitude that a healthy child should have. Yeah, and the happiness card is the Nine of Cups. Is the Nine of Cups in the tarot, and I'm using the Thoth deck here, and this is what the Nine of Cups looks like in the Thoth deck. I wish my camera would focus, but I'm not going to let that destroy my happiness either. And the Knight of Wands in reverse, I forgot to talk about that. That is pushing too hard, like pushing to the point of exhaustion, or pushing to the point of where all you're getting is resistance from the universe or the people around you. Happiness is such an amazing thing, and we can sometimes, as with money or any other thing that is kind of a currency, we can push too hard, and then that means that we in return get a resistance. It's just the law of the universe. It is just a law. It's a law that is, whether you have to, you don't have to believe in anything spiritual to see how that works. When you see people who are super pushy, in their demeanor and the way that they try and get things, their common reaction that you have from strangers is to just back off, because it's a volatile energy, it's a dangerous energy, it's very fiery and very explosive. It's not good. And we all have these elements within us, both the wealth and the wealth, which is the desperate want for a dream come true, or also the Knight of Wands. We have both those aspects within us, but I would say that we can work through them quite easily if we are able to sit down in peace and serenity and think the nice thoughts about ourselves. Really train our own minds, like you would train a dog, to not beat ourselves up about if we do things wrong or don't get the routine right, or aren't able to see a friend that day, even though we said for months that was the day we were going to see them. All these things that the brain organizes and that can be very valuable, They are not the source of our happiness. It is our heart which is the source of our happiness. It is our heart. So, spirits of the Most High. How can we how can we better tap into our hearts? How can we better tap into our hearts, Panda? Power. Power. That's that. I mean, this is really overlapping a reading I did earlier, but the subtle but powerful energy of the heart is way stronger than the mind. Like if you were to go into kind of the spiritual science of the mind versus the heart has this massive magnetic field that comes all around our body like a big torus field. The mind has this tiny little magnetic field, like about yay big. It's full of all sorts of stuff, unless you're in meditation or particularly aligned as a person. So it's about being able to look for power in subtle and gentle places, rather than in rah, I'm a macho man and I'm doing my macho can. All that kind of stuff is not gonna. It's actually that kind of representation of power. As much as we can validate it and see, it needs to be expressed in that way. It is. It's not conducive. It's actually kind of the opposite. It's really. It may look powerful on the physical plane, but it's not powerful spiritually, and it's not powerful for the long term or anything like that. People who try and rule with that sort of power end up being powerless. It's kind of due to the fact that it's kind of the whole law of karma, that if you really try and be powerful too much, all you get in return is the opposite, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, what next, Spirit? What can we use our happiness to achieve in our lives? What can we use our happiness to achieve in our lives? Whoa, I'm not having the whole deck. What can we use? How can we use our happiness to achieve better things in our life? Ooh, cruelty, 9 of Swords. What's this, Spirit? Well, the phrase "kill it with kindness" is coming to mind, the Empress. But I would say that's again quite like when I think of that term, "kill it with kindness," it's kind of can sound a bit passive aggressive. I don't think that's what Spirit's saying. I think Spirit is saying, cruelty can be transmuted through acts of goodwill, acts of kindness to people, even the people who are being cruel. Obviously, when they are being cruel to you, put your boundaries up, like no way, man, not today. But also, don't completely, in most contexts anyway, completely disregard them or cancel them as a person in your life. Maybe just a small act of kindness might actually, if not make them, put them on the right track, which is very unlikely it would do, but at least maybe just make them feel happier for that moment, and therefore, that in itself is a cure for their ailments and their sort of spiritual illness that is being cruel and being nasty to people because of the fact that they themselves have been treated that way at some point, and they also in their mind, this going back to this mental training, if you were to look inside the mind of someone who often is cruel and shouty and mad about everything, they're mad about themselves, and not in a good way. That's ultimately what's going on there. And we have to have sympathy, because that's a horrible place to be. And I've been there. and when I was in that sort of state of beating myself up in my mind and being like, you're such a terrible person, why should you even be alive, yeah, it's not nice, and we need to have empathy towards people who are in that sort of state, whether it's anger, rage, sadness, depression, because it's not nice. The Empress as well coming out really shows how our intuitive powers and also our just natural, if we can emanate that natural toroidal field of gentleness, kindness and gentle power, soft power, like feminine power rather than masculine power, then that will diffuse and dilute any kind of unhappy, cruel energies that are in that space. And it's just about us maintaining and not giving in, and using our shadow to interact with these cruel people, instead of being triggered into shadow responses. The whole Solomon's demon type thing, where Solomon trains all these demons who are kind of negative into being a positive thing that constructs his temple. Yeah. Okay, where are we going from here? I'm so licky. No, no more kisses though. Not until late. All right, here we go. Works and I don't even know what that says, but it's the Ten of Cups. Satiety. Ten of Cups is good. This is where the happiness is coming from. Like I say, from the heart. But the Ten of Cups is that sort of beautiful feminine feeling of being in your space, in your place, and being grounded, having sustenance to your life, having a wholesome and a life full of lovely souls, lovely spirits, sprites, fairies, children, adults, dogs, cats. All these things are surrounding you. Even if this is just in an energetic form, all these different colours, all this, to create this amazing palette of beauty and Venus energy of life, of love. Being able to sniff the rose, going into a rose garden and actually smelling the roses, So many people, I was in a rose garden the other day, and so many people just walk through it without smelling the roses. Like, what are you guys even on? What is going on here? Anyway, like, yeah, what is this about sniffing the roses? Like, how can we when we're in points of being a little bit detached, how can we kind of, the priestess, yeah, I mean, spirits is just telling you guys how intuitive and divinely gentle and nurturing you are. The priestess and the bloody empress coming out, that is some next level gentleness going down there. And I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong, these sorts of energies you can kind of, I would say the Empress can definitely knows what to do in cruel and harsh and tricky situations, and isn't going to be necessarily the most gentle person either. But like I say, they've got the intuition coming from the heart up to the mind, and then when they're in these situations, the mind is able to be reminded that this is not something that can necessarily destroy, affect, or pollute you, as long as you remain in this state of kindness, of love, of oneness with yourself and with the all. Cool. get a closing message? I feel like this is a bit of a shorter one. Let's get a closing message on happiness. Completion. we are, you know, like I was saying before about making sure that we are in flow and not stagnating. That's what brings the completion, that brings forth the cycles of happiness, which, that's a good point. The cycles of happiness that also will, as the wheel turns again, will inevitably rebalance back into sadness, and then into happiness, and into sadness. This is, again, going back to the whole sort of Buddhist concept of being kind of not indifferent, but kind of in a state of oneness at all times. That is why to be content rather than happy in the sort of long term for spiritual progress, being content in some ways might be better than trying to find happiness. I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, if you're feeling out of alignment or feeling a bit down, it's not like a rush to make yourself feel happy. It's more like sit in that and be content. I know that sounds pretty hard to do, but it kind of takes a little bit of training of the mind, and also more just lots of things going wrong in your life, or lots of issues arising that make you feel discontent, for you to be able to sit in that contentment. Not happiness, because happiness is almost going too far, if you get what I mean, to the extreme. It's like the nervous system can't cope with that kind of emotion. It will just make it seem fake, because of the fact that it's the nervous system's feeling so vulnerable. So it needs that neutrality, it needs that contentedness in order to get to the place of happiness, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It's so important. This is a great ending message. It's so important for us to listen to our nervous system and listen to our body if we are to able to become more naturally fulfilled and happy in our lives, because without that listening, we will make ourselves do things which we're not ready to do, and miss things that we are ready to do. You know, it kind of it puts us into flux, because we are like pushing ourselves. We're being pushy with ourselves, you know, and pushing ourselves into places that that our heart doesn't want to go, or our nervous system is not ready to go. You know, like imagine if you've had a bit of like a wobbly day, and then at the end of the day you decide to go to I'm hearing a football match. Like, we need to kind of just think a little bit before we sign up to certain things. Well, it's fine to sign up, but then we don't necessarily need to go if we're not feeling the vibe, and that's not going to answer our desire for happiness. If we, because I feel like I'm kind of getting the whole, you know, someone having a rough day, a rough week at work, and then going out on a Friday and wondering why their night is really bad, you know, when the week before, when they had quite a good week at work, and then went for a night out, it was the epitome of an amazing night out, you know. Again, go back to that gentleness, that neutrality, that lovely love, and ground yourself, and you might still be able to go for a night out, you know, on that, even on that rough week. It just needs that zen, it needs that acceptance of the situation and the state you're in order for you to be safe, and for your nervous system to feel safe, that then emanates safety all around you, you know. Cool. Alright guys, me and Panda love you lots, and we'll see you next time.